So the internet today, in the last several days, has been ablaze with headlines about Sarah Huckabee Sanders and the Red Hen restaurant. As is to be expected, people on the left and the right and, everywhere in between have broken into their tribal groups and are firing volleys at each other. It has become bitter tribal warfare over an overall fairly benign situation that really shouldn't have made national headlines. And the only reason I happen to be speaking to this particular instance, because I try to stay out of the tribal warfare as much as possible, is because I see this as a good opportunity for me to kind of teach about my particular morals and my political standpoints when in regards to self-ownership in terms of private property, so on and so forth. So when we're looking at this particular issue, we have to separate this into several different categories, the different ways of talking and approaching this particular issue. Number one comes down to the golden rule, treating other people how you wish to be treated. Overall, we have to recognize that we're A, all human beings, and B, all Americans. We should all be on the same side, and overall should treat people, each other, as respectfully and courteously as humanly possible and in as many situations as possible. Sometimes people are particularly nasty to you, and in those situations, what happens, happens. I'm not necessarily saying that, we must turn a blind eye in every situation. But we do need to treat everyone respectfully. And when it comes down to denying gay couples, a wedding cake, or kicking Sarah Huckabee Sanders out of your restaurant, that kind of violates that golden rule. It basically is saying, hey, you are lesser than me. I see myself as morally superior to you, so on and so forth. Now, they have, in my heart, they have the right to do with their business as they please, right? But that does not necessarily mean that how they use their business is appropriate or moral or overall beneficial to the community at large. So we can look at their decisions and say that they are immoral, but in the same instance, we can also say that they have the right to make those decisions. And the reason is we live in a free country. We were founded upon the ideas of self-ownership, of private property rights, the right to own your own labor as well as your own worldly possessions. And that is written through, all of our founding documents and in our original, laws and so on and so forth. All of it has been based around, personal sovereignty. And if you as an individual do not own the right to your own labor, you cannot claim to be free. And when we look at somebody's business, that is an extension of their labor as well as their own private property. And the federal government does not, in my mind, what I believe, legally is different. We can talk about that. But in my mind, the federal government does not have the right to tell anyone what they can and cannot do with their private property or their labor. Now, if that business decides to start dumping chemical waste out into, their parking lot and it's running into our sewer systems, that's different because their actions are harming the overall society at large. And in those situations, yes, government bodies step in and stop the bad behavior. But when it comes to, hey, do I want to do business with this person or not, that should be entirely left up to the owner of that business. Now, because I know people are screaming into their phone screens or their iPad screens right now, I am not saying that it is right for them to deny service to any individual, to a gay couple, or, to somebody they disagree with politically. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, but they should have the right to do it. You as a consumer and as an American also have a right to do service with whomever you choose. Meaning if you don't want to go to that bake shop that denied people, a wedding cake, well, this is a perfect opportunity to exercise your freedom and go elsewhere. And that's what I suggest we do. When we see people exercise hateful acts of this nature and an attempt overall to disrupt our community through their hateful acts, I suggest we as a community stop doing business with those people, because we should not be proliferating or promulgating hateful acts. We as a community should not overall accept those hateful acts. It's part of why our country today seems to be wanting to rip itself apart, both at the political level and, peer to peer. We have to focus on that first thing I talked about, the golden rule, treating people respectfully and kindly. That is what we used to be known for. But for whatever reason, in the last 20 years or so, we've become more and more hateful and vitriolic. And we have to stop that behavior. But I 100% don't believe the right way to do it is by trying to force it with governmental policy.